Hey everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Best of 3 Call of Duty Esports Podcasts.
Hey.
I'm your host, Josh, SalvationsElite. To my right is Bash, Sam, Bash _ Bo3. And New York over there is Rex, ShadyNero on the far right of the screen. Guys, it's about to be a wild one. I mean, for the first time in our podcast history, we have a reaction and a prediction to do today. We got a reaction for Minnesota and a prediction for CDL Paris. So we got a lot to go through. But first, before we go through anything, I've got to ask, guys, what's going on?
Josh, have you ever taken a dip in the ocean and felt the salt touch your skin
Once or twice.
and dry it out?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a certain sense of elation that you get that it almost gives you... it makes you feel really good.
Makes you feel alive.
Makes you feel really good. That's how you end that one.
Man.
I was going to say erection, but then I wasn't going to say it.
Whoa. Wow. This was like a gymnast on her like 10 out of 10 routine, and she lands and breaks both her legs.
So we can cut that
Back
part.
again.
I decided maybe I won't say erection on the podcast. But we went there, so...
No, we made it, boys. We made it.
Good salty erection.
Oh,
Wow, we're starting off the podcast
Drown in
PG-13.
the... What's it? Drown them out.
Yep,
There
drown
you
them out. There you
Drown
go,
them
man.
out.
All right, guys. Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Salty as ever.
Salty as ever, guys. Wow, this was another podcast starter in the history books. Off the rip here, guys. But per usual, guys, you can find us on Twitter. Like I said, SalvationsElite, which is myself. Sam is Bash _ Bo3 and ShadyNero. And you can listen where podcasts can be listened to. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And, you check us out. Drop a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll be reading them in the future, of course, like we said for many episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot going on. Of course, the Fantasy League. We got the Fantasy League down in the description of in the description or the pinned comment. I'm sorry, the pinned comment on YouTube. And I need to pull up who won the last one because I got to give them their well-deserved shout out.
Out of us three, I know I won. I got 39th.
Oh,
I think I got 39.
that tells you something out there, guys. I mean, I had Shotzzy.
I got 37th or something.
I had Shotzzy, Awakening, and I mean, so I was feeling good about my core, and then I looked, I'm like, oh, yikes.
Unfortunately.
Awakening was the pick for this.
Yeah. The thing was, is like he was really cheap too because he was like coming off as like a sub or whatever. But shout out Rosa Meltrozo's team.
Nice name.
Yeah,
A little
dude, he had a crazy
368 point team. My goodness. Formal at 82. Maybe I didn't have formal.
Formal killed it.
Awakening, Simp, Shotzzy, and Illy with the winning squad. There's the duo.
Illy, really?
Shotzzy Illy duo there. Ended up taking home the cake for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually surprising. Yeah. I had Crimsix in Arcitys. That makes a lot more sense. That makes a lot more sense.
Mr. 0-8.
Yeah. I mean, I literally had Awakening, Shotzzy, and Simp, and I was like, oh, let's go. I was excited to check it, and then I was like, oh, Crim.
Yeah.
Coming up short. But another fun week. So join that, and I'm sure it'll fill up pretty quick, so make sure you go join up, and we'll get going. So,
Do it.
guys, we have something exciting today. We have the debut of a new drop. New drops. It's going to be exciting. And so let's get right in
Oh my gosh.
to the news.
I'm so excited.
The Call of Duty News of the Week.
Whoa.
Oh, baby.
Wow. We're
Did
moving
this-
up in the world,
Did this
boys.
podcast just get more official?
We just leveled up. We just leveled
Oh
up.
my word.
Yep. And there's more to come.
More?
There's more.
So you're in for a
No
treat
way.
today.
There are more to come. So
Holy cow.
be on the lookout. But alrighty. Lots of news today, man. Lots of news today. Let's start off with some of the news that was about Shotzzy's buyout from during Rostermania, basically, like buyout from what, Splice, right?
Splice.
He gave an estimate between 150 and 250K, but like he started off with like 250, so
Yeah.
like it's probably somewhere
250.
around there, somewhere between 150 and 250, which is pretty significant. But then in the comments, Skrapz was like one-upping him. And it
He
was
was
like, well,
flexing
guess
on
what?
him.
Guess what? Mine was 3 times that from FaZe. So how about you suck one?
Jeez.
One of them salties.
That's crazy, though.
Yeah.
I mean, like, just in general, 250K.
Why are they even tweeting that out? Like, that's what I don't understand. But
I think he just, like, said it on his stream, didn't
Yeah,
he?
someone asked him on Shotzzy on stream, and then
oh, he just released it.
Yeah, and then 24 COD Intel tweeted out, and then Skrapz was like just dropping bombs on the timeline.
Definitely a boost to
Great
your ego.
pickup, though. I mean,
Yeah.
Shotzzy, I mean, that money did not go to waste, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, definitely did not go to waste.
Got to feel good knowing you got bought out for 250K.
Yeah, 100%. So that's a lot of cash. I mean, you think about that. I mean, like how that works is, I mean, they're just paying that just so that you can join the squad. Like, that's just straight cash.
Yep.
So that's tough.
Yeah.
But the next piece of news was a whole news, but not news. It was Crowder is still the head coach of Atlanta FaZe, guys. Breaking news. He is still the coach of Atlanta FaZe. Who'd have thought? But basically, this whole drama went down because RJ, who's like the analyst for FaZe, he changed his Twitter bio to say head coach for Atlanta FaZe. And everyone was like, yo, what?
Freaking
CDL
out.
Intel tweeted out like, bro, I don't know what's happening here, but he changed his Twitter bio. And like everyone was like flipping, like, "Yo, what? You think like Crowder's gone? Like, yo, what?" And no, he's not. I mean, Crowder was asked about it on stream, and he's just like, "We were just joking around."
Inside joke.
It was like an inside joke, and he switched it, and everyone flipped out
Man.
immediately.
The amount of power those guys have, just to,
Dude, it's so weird. Why do they even do stuff like that? It's just a power trip. It's just
It really
weird,
is.
but whatever. But it's
Like, dude, look
I
at how
mean,
crazy
like,
people are gonna go when I say that.
dude, watch this.
Yeah,
I know.
watch this.
I want to
when
create
when
a whole
I first
morning
saw it,
drama.
I'm like, really? I mean, like, they're still a really good team. I don't think they need to like move him down.
Yeah, that would not make any sense, honestly, if they switched him out. But
I mean,
it would have made sense if he was like full-time streaming, like, hey, I just can't do it anymore.
that'd be the only way it would
Yeah.
make any sense.
Yeah.
But to be demoted and he's like, I'll still stay with the team would be like, I
That'd be
don't know.
weird.
Yeah, so that was just comedy. That was like this massive rule for no reason. But the next piece of news, which is kind of like very newsy, is that basically during the whole drama this weekend was the delay time that, you know, was really extremely unfortunate for Seattle, inspiring like a reverse sweep basically.
Mhm.
And Octane flipped out afterwards on Twitter. He's like, I don't care if I'm getting fined. That was a bunch of bull. Like, that cannot happen. This is a professional COD league with, you know, millions of dollars invested. And he got a rule change for it.
He did.
So
Yeah. Well, these delays are insane.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. I mean,
I hate how long they are.
they were
Like,
having some legit tech problems again. Momo's kept cutting out over and
So
over and
bad.
over. And then they said their like streaming system completely like failed, and they had to reset the whole thing, which took like 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess it's just unfortunate, but
I would
Yeah.
honestly like to. I kind of wish I was more invested in other esports, so I could see other esports stream qualities. If
True,
this
with
is
the
a cr-
online versus
If
the
this is like
online.
across multiple titles, or if this is
Yeah.
just Call of Duty, just
I mean, I truly believe it's just growing pains from like dropping the whole MLG crew and picking up a whole new broadcast crew with Activision, and like how that all came through, because like MLG would not be having these problems. I
No.
mean, they had that down to a T when it came to broadcast and how that all worked out, and they were used to doing online stuff.
Mhm.
Even back in Black Ops 3, the quality was pretty good even for
Yeah.
the online league.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they've had years of experience, and to not use them is pretty crazy. But
I don't think other esports are really experiencing this. Now, maybe I'll get roasted for that, but I think most of them kind of have it figured out.
mhm.
I think it's just a Call of Duty thing,
yeah, that's
um,
frustrating.
but yeah.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. I mean, we sit there and you're like, yo, the cast, this is like what, fifth online, fourth online?
It's so
I look
distracting.
back now. So many online events at this point, and we still don't have it all figured out. Like, what?
And it always seems to be like Phil and Momo. Like, they're always talking over each other, like constantly.
Yeah,
and
something's up with their setup. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah.
Can
it's
we
been
do a
real
segment?
tough.
Can we do a segment about our favorite casters? Because I have opinions about that.
I mean, I'd be
okay,
down
well,
Maybe
for
not
it.
today.
Maybe
but
that's
at
the
some
hottest
point,
operator day.
I
Yeah.
would-
What
Maybe
should
I would
Oh,
love to
L's in
talk
the
about the
chat for hottest
casters.
operators.
Yeah, by the way, that's
L's in the
news.
chat.
That's
Rex,
news.
how do you feel about that? That is big news.
Dude, Empire, like It was there.
So for those of you who might be confused
Ramaza is. I hate Ramaza. Like what? Never. They should never play Ramaza ever again.
Well, I mean, no one should ever play Ramaza.
But like, here's the thing. I thought Empire would be like Empire's like a Ramaza team. Just like by the way they play, I thought Empire like Ramaza might be a map Empire is going to be good on. And then they lost twice.
Yeah, it's tough.
Okay. Maybe we don't do that one
again. If you're confused out there, it's because we made a bet. We told Rex, I mean, he's had the hottest operator drama this whole year. And we said, if Empire win this event, which is a pretty decent chance.
It is a good chance.
We were like, we will do house operators this week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do we go double or nothing?
Good.
Yes.
Double or nothing. If Empire
you
win.
want to do Empire win.
If Empire win.
Hottest operator and favorite casters.
We'll do hottest operators and favorite casters next week. Just for you, Rex.
I really want to do. Yes, both of them would be amazing. I think I have hot takes about my favorite caster. But
okay, and you have really hot takes about the hottest operators.
Ooh, the hottest, baby.
Really hot.
The hottest takes, bro.
And Josh, you almost lost a bet. $20 bet.
Oh my word,
yes.
guys, dude! So last event, bro, I made a $20. I was like, yo, I'll give away $20 because we were joking about like, yo, imagine. I mean, Rex kind of nailed it. He was like, could you imagine like if it would be so Seattle of them to like come out and just play great against FaZe.
Sure enough.
And
when I saw it happening, man, I was like, I knew it.
There comes the reverse sweep. Round 11.
When it was happening, 11. I'm like, this is it. This is the time when Seattle just has their miracle game. Like, because they're at that point where like they just don't care, and that almost frees you up to play better. Because just like, we can do whatever we want, because who cares now? It makes you almost be a better player.
Yeah. But then, so like, I made a bet. Like, I was like, all right, there's no chance this happening. I'll do a $20 giveaway if FaZe lose this. And here it goes. We go down to round 11, 1v1. So I'm like, oh my word, I'm sitting here on my desk like, oh my word, let's go. Come on. Yes. Or normally I'd be rooting for the upset. So I legitimately I would root for Seattle to make the upset happen. But I was financially invested into that one.
Yes, you were.
But that was a blast. So long story short, after the whole delay, they enacted a new rule that says that now if there's a 15-minute delay, it's basically like a max 15 to 20-minute delay. So it's like 15 minutes, and then they have to start the next match within 5 minutes after that 15-minute delay. So you're preventing any more 30-minute delays. But but the only issue there is that means there might be matches played, or like you might go through a whole map where we don't see it happen if the stream goes down.
Yeah.
So that could be annoying.
Yeah, but for competitive integrity, it makes sense.
Could you imagine if it happened like mid, like game 4, game 5 of a finals or something?
Champs or something. Imagine Champs grand finals. We don't get to see it.
Well, yeah. They'd probably make an exception.
You would think so.
They'd probably make an exception.
Sorry.
Screw you, Octane. It's Octane versus FaZe. Seattle versus FaZe. That'd be hilarious. But yeah, that was wild. I was like, oh my goodness. But our roster news of the week is Toronto related. I mean, there was a whole drama last week, basically, which we didn't really know about. We weren't sure what was happening with that last week, but basically Toronto Classic had to go home for an emergency family situation, and so basically they didn't have any time to practice the whole week as a team leading up to the match. Then he got back, and that's why Kleenex was subbing in for him. And then they got back, and he ended up playing anyway, even though they had been playing with Kleenex that whole week, which is weird.
Crazy.
I'm surprised they decided to even let Classic play after him being gone the whole week, but he did play. And now it sounds like Kleenex is back scrimming with the starting lineup again.
I mean, if we look at the war zone, Kleenex looks like he might be
the nasty of nasty. I mean,
maybe he looks like he's got that little bit of spark in him that you could see like when someone has a spark and who doesn't. He seems to have that spark.
I mean, if
that,
you go back and watch
a good player.
Arsenal. There's that Arsenal map. Oh no, who were they playing against? Oh gosh, there's an Arsenal map from Singularity. I think it was a hard point Arsenal where Kleenex dropped like 40 or something.
It's probably against LG, honestly.
I'd imagine it was against LG because that's where they made their waves.
Yeah.
But I was sitting 2 tables down. I was like, I didn't care at all what was happening in my match. I was like, oh my word, Singularity is beating LG. Or like, what is happening?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I was like, oh my word. But yeah, I don't know. So that's interesting. I mean, it's probably a good rule at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it only makes sense, but it'll be really annoying if we end up missing some COD because of it. Oh,
wait, we're talking about Classic, aren't we?
What? No.
Yeah, you
I
totally went to a
defaulted
different
back.
topic, but okay.
I was like, wait,
Yeah,
no,
you're
we're talking
right.
about Classic.
Sure.
Yeah, dude, great
I think
rule,
Kleenex
bro.
is gonna be great. I think he'll be a good. I think Kleenex will be a good substitute.
But yeah,
I'm
so
excited to
Gunless-
see Kleenex play.
So
to be
Gunless
honest.
was on the Codcast talking about this whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, he said he would never go play for Toronto because he never wants to go back to Canada. So that's off the books. Next off, he said that like Classic, Toronto didn't want to let him leave, but like he had like a dire emergency family situation. We don't know. Really. I mean, I would imagine it was something pretty bad if he had to go back. But like Toronto didn't want to let him leave.
Wow.
But here's the thing: why? It's an online league, so it's like as long as he can just play. I mean,
no free shutouts.
I mean, it depends on where you're going. Like, depends if he's like it's so dire emergency, like he just like isn't gonna be able to play. But then he played.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, well, who cares if he leaves? Like, it's online. He'll just take a setup there.
Yeah, but for some reason they didn't, and he didn't play that week. I don't know. Like,
I mean, it might have been something dire.
They
just,
were
like,
very
couldn't, but-
against him leaving, and like it sounded like from what Pac-Man and Nameless were saying, like they already have a rep of being like a kind of anti-players, not very willing to barge on things as an organization, which could be a bad sign moving forward if they're trying to get guys to come.
I know.
Move
That's
up
weird.
there.
And the weird thing too is that Classic, I never saw Classic as the problem here. Like,
Well, yeah, that's the weird thing with the move.
yeah, like Classic would not be the one that I would pick to sub out someone for, and I guess I get it if the reason is because he had to go away for a week, and so like,
And then you got comfortable playing with Kleenex and
yeah, but if
Who would you sub out instead? I think Kleenex should play, to be honest. He looks pretty good
I mean,
from
if
what
he-
I've seen. And Toronto could use a change.
if he's got like that high ceiling, but in terms of who I'd pick,
I
for
mean,
him,
I honestly think Classic's better than like Cammy or Bance.
man, that's actually a good question. I would probably sub in Bance before Classic.
Yeah, that's what
sub
I'm saying.
out.
I
Yeah.
feel like Classic's been good. I'm surprised.
I don't think
surprised.
Classic's been good. I think he's
But
done
he's
his
not-
job.
But he's not been.
Solid?
He's not been the problem
He's
on the team
been-
though.
He's been incredibly average.
I agree, but he's had some
He's
events.
had times where he's popped off.
No,
though.
I agree. That's the thing. Like, I don't feel like Cammy or Bance have ever had like a wow moment. Classic's had a few of them moments where you're like,
Mhm.
oh wow, Classic's kind of going off right now,
Mhm.
carrying. Like in my
I
opinion,
agree.
Classic has not been the problem.
Yeah, I feel like no one's been like a problem. They just need people that are stronger, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So
they
actually, I could see
really-
Bance first. I think Bance would be my pick too, to be honest. But
Yeah, because I get the move because Kleenex presents like the potential upside slaying power.
he's like another Awakening. It almost looks like another like
the potential
one of
upside
these
slaying power that they
guys.
need desperately because they just need someone to slay out there in front of Methods. Because I mean, Methods, sure he's dropping good KDs, but like as the main AR, most main ARs are dropping good KDs nowadays and slaying and like putting up decent numbers anyway. So it's like you need that SMG Slayer to put pressure on the hills.
You know, like
Right.
Kleenex's middle name is Jewel, and it's
Wow.
spelled like Jewel,
Really?
Juul.
Wow, dude.
Crazy.
wow.
Respect.
I wonder what Method's middle name is.
It just says Anthony Zinni online. Sorry, I can't answer that question for you.
Well, damn.
Italiano chef. Connoisseur.
Maybe the next one. Maybe we should have a segment on middle names.
Yes, we should.
There's a lot on the line for this one. We got a middle name segment. We got
Yeah.
Oh,
If Ultra win a tournament, we go over their middle
yeah.
names.
There we go.
And who
Deal.
has the
Deal.
best middle name?
rank in the middle. Oh,
I'm down.
gosh.
But yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's an upside play for them. Like if Kleenex can come in here and start dropping 1.1s, that's what they need to be an elite team. But at the same
Yes.
time, like they felt like they were finally starting to get to a point where you're like, all right, Toronto's consistent. Like they're competitive now.
True.
And then Classic's gone for a week. Then they come back. They're out of sync. So it's just really unfortunate.
Definitely.
Maybe their practice with Kleenex was really good, though. Maybe they're like, oh, wow. And then they're like, Classic's like, no, I can play. So they're like, okay. And
Yeah.
maybe they're like, man, I kind of wish we would have played with Kleenex. So maybe that's what happened. Like,
I
maybe
honestly-
same thing
it's
with
probably what it
Priestahh.
was.
Priestahh, like, took his time off that he needed. And, like, I understand, like, it's a dire circumstance for Classic. And, like, if there's a really big family emergency.
But they realized how freaking good Pharaoh was, like in Florida.
Like, but then someone comes in and like just plays really well, and your team just looks really good. But that guy comes back, so like, I can play. It's like, I don't know, man. This guy's been really good.
Yeah,
but it's hard
100%.
to say no to someone who's like going through something kind of rough, and like, no, actually, you're not starter anymore. So,
yeah.
Does it make him better long term? What's your prediction?
Yeah, I think so. Honestly,
I
don't think Classic's the best choice, but I still think it's going to make him better.
It's hard because do you look at long term as after this season 2, or
no?
Are you just looking at strictly champs?
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing a consistent place of
make a roster change
AMs,
and you are better.
Yeah, we're seeing this consistent AMs coming up and making teams better. So maybe Clinics is what this team needs.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
It's just unfortunate that Classic was the one to have to go. But if it makes them better, it's all. At the end of the day, it's all about the stats.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's always about the relationships, and it's like, Cammy and Metals, and then you've got Bance is kind of the wild card, and then Classic. But like Classic, I imagine it was Classic and Looney were kind of like
probably
a duo type situation. So then you got like Methods. Where does his loyalty lie? And where's Bance in the equation? And then how does Kleenex fit into the chemistry problem? So there's always the back stuff, the backstory stuff that plays into it.
What about Looney? Like Looney's a good player. Like the fact that he's still riding
so
the
chalked.
bench.
That's so unfortunate.
Yeah,
for
his
him.
season's chalked, man.
I'm pretty sure they built that team around Looney too.
It felt like it too. I feel like he basically constructed that team himself.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah, but all right. If we spend too much more time on the news,
year, I think.
Yeah, probably. If we spend too much more time on the news, though, we're gonna be here all day with predictions, and the breakdown is still to go. So let's move us in. Wait, I forgot. We do need to talk about the PS5 reveal. Real quick at least. I forgot. We were going to talk about this. The PS5 reveal. I mean, let's give initial thoughts and how it might impact COD. So what are your initial thoughts on the PS5? We're probably going to do a full segment on this the more and more we learn about it, I guess, as a whole. But initial thoughts on PS5, go.
Yeah. The only thing I did want to say was there was no COD trailer. And usually things with Sony, there is some sort of Call of Duty campaign, something trailer, some sort of something.
They didn't even hint at it, yeah.
They didn't hint at it. So could this mean exclusivity is gone and COD is going to PC? Maybe. I don't know. But it was curious to see that there was no hint of Call of Duty for this PS5. But I don't know. It just seems hard to think that Sony or Microsoft is not going to dump a buttload of cash to get their platform as the Call of Duty Esports platform. So I don't know. I'm curious to see. But that was
it feels like
my one takeaway.
Feels like these consoles are, especially PS5, is moving in more into like a story-based games kind of setup. PS5 has become known for having like, Last of Us and like having all these like kind of like good stories.
Yeah.
Journey.
The God of War, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
God of War,
Incredible
Spider-Man,
games.
all like PlayStation exclusives that like, these are like solid story RPG sort of games.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why, and like maybe that's kind of the market they're starting to move towards. Maybe that's why there wasn't like a COD trailer. But I can see COD going to PC, but not mouse and keyboard, but controller on PC.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was the rumor.
Which honestly, I'd prefer a controller on PC.
Yeah, that was the rumor last year was going into this. Like that was leaked by multiple people that they were hoping to be on PS4 this year and then potentially move to COD or move to PC with controller next year. So it might that could be evidence towards that, but it's hard to say. I mean, long term it makes the most sense probably just to do PC.
Definitely.
But at the same time, the PS5 looks like a pretty impressive console, and I'd have no problem with it being on PS5. So,
yeah.
Well, it's going to be all cross-play anyway, so maybe they're just like, whatever. You can use a
that's
computer,
the
you
thing.
can use a PlayStation, you can use an Xbox. Doesn't matter what system you compete on.
As long as you're using a controller.
As long as you're using a controller.
Yeah, which is very, very possible.
I would love that.
Yeah, I mean, basically the only difference right now for why it's unfair is that there's an FOV slider on PC and there's not one on console. So either they need to lock the FOV on PC or open up the FOV on console and then it'll be fine.
Or you just play on PC and go with that.
Right.
True.
Right. But I just mean like if they wanted to do that, that's what they have
has
to
the
do.
higher frames. It has PC. You just can do more. It's easy. It's probably, I'm sure it's easier to like code all that stuff into PC than it is to like a console.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem with consoles is that, they start off ahead of PCs, but by the end, they're way behind.
Way behind.
So it's like, when this PS5 launches next year for the price point, it'll be way better than a PC at its price point. It won't even be comparable. But like after 4 years, it's getting blown out by PCs again. Yeah. So that's always the problem, So, I mean, long term, I'd be down for it to be on PC. The only problem for me is like streaming plus playing and like streaming in 1080p plus playing on a PC. I'd have to probably dump another few $100 into my PC to make it better.
Yeah. Which
would kind of scare me a little bit, but.
So your quality's gonna be so much higher, and it's gonna have so much more longevity, dude.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with it, but I guess we'll keep you guys updated on that one too. So let's move into segment 1 here. We got another drop to play here.
Oh man,
this is a little bit different. It's not
God.
as like directly. It's more fun. Let's just, instead of talking about it, let's just fire it up. Let's go, baby. Segment 1.
Trash. Garbage.
Trash. Garbage. Oh my word. We're talking about the most trash teams, the best teams, the garbage teams of the weekend. We're talking about the Minnesota reaction. That's what we're talking about.
If you didn't know.
If we didn't know. We're just we're having some fun with these things now. But all right, guys. Want to start off with the teams that aren't going to be at Paris, because naturally we're going to be talking about more about them at the end of this episode too. So let's start off with like the Minnesota Rokkr, man. Another disappointing event, dude. I mean, this was really unfortunate though with the whole Alex situation. I mean,
that was weird.
What in the world? What are you guys' thoughts with the Rokkr, man?
They're going lower and lower every time I watch them. But I mean, granted, Alex wasn't playing, but I don't know. I still feel like there could be a substitution coming in.
Yeah,
not a substitution, but a replacement.
Yeah, some type of roster change.
I don't even. I guess it truly was that they were just ahead at the beginning, and then they just either got people caught up to them, or B, I guess I haven't like really checked individual player stats. Is Goddard actually not putting up the numbers that he used to?
Yeah, I mean, stats-wise, it's been a big problem for him. I mean, the slang's not there, and like when you lose Alex like that too, it's like that's just heartbreaking. Basically impossible because you lose that slang power so much. I mean, that was the problem. Was that Alex? That was on Saturday. They announced that Alex got hurt on like Friday night, right? Because he played on Friday.
He did.
Yeah. So they lost to Empire on Friday 3-1, which they looked decent in. I mean, they didn't look terrible in. But when they brought in an Exceed, they looked horrible.
They probably never
Saturday.
practiced with Exceed before it ever.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean they lost.
So like
they did.
I mean, how much has Exceed been playing?
Oh
too,
yeah,
let's
barely,
be honest.
barely
These
at all.
Sometimes don't play. So
yeah, I mean they played Seattle on Saturday with Exceed. They did take them to map 5. I don't know if that's a positive or a negative. I mean, like
Seattle.
Yeah, you're losing to Seattle, but they won the search. Then they lost the game 5 search. They won the hard point on Cave, and then they won the search on Arklov. Then they got reverse swept by Seattle. So, I mean, it's just unfortunate we didn't get a full weekend from them. Because I mean, like, come on, if they have Alex, they're beating Seattle, right?
You would think.
I would say yeah. I would say yes, they are.
Yeah. So, yeah, especially with how close it was, you would assume that would put them over the edge. But yeah, it's just such an unfortunate situation where these guys were on the brink of greatness, but about to win their first one, and then all of a sudden they just took a huge downturn.
Yeah, yikes.
But yeah, what do you think what one substitution would you make, Rex? Do you think?
I've always said Asim.
Yeah. Do you think Gunless would make that team better?
No. I mean,
yes,
maybe
definitely.
At first, like individually, yes, but like, I mean, that's what Rokkr's kind of based around. It's like having chemistry and symmetry, like just that chemistry. And Gunless is not going to bring that unless somehow Silly has this friendship with him, and I know he like does, but I don't know. But maybe
doesn't seem
Gunless
likely,
would, but Gunless wouldn't be my top choice, at least for that team.
Would you rather bring in an AM than Gunless?
Yeah, I mean, depends on who the AM is. If it's like, another Awakening or something, yeah. But
Right. That's
Yeah,
the thing.
I
I mean, at this point, would you rather drop a Sim or
I'd rather
Silly?
put Kleenex in for a Sim or something.
Oh, what?
I
Where
mean,
did
I
that
know
come
that's not
from?
going to happen, but like,
Oh,
you
you
know
mean-
what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that sort
yeah.
of like,
I mean,
vibe,
I don't
I
know.
guess.
Like if they stick together, let's just say this roster stays together the whole rest of this year. Where do you see them by champs? I mean, they they might be in trouble, right?
If
they're in
this,
trouble, man.
if this is the same roster by champs, there's no hope for them. What we've seen them be the same roster. They're on this downturn.
Yeah.
I don't think that this same roster can, well, everyone else is pretty much, doing better. How does this roster, besides God or X dropping the same 1.3, 1.2, which
Yeah.
maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
But
But
we can't expect God or X to hard carry every time.
No.
Yeah, I know. It's just so weird though, because it's like I want to pinpoint what happened with God RX, because he was, I mean, it felt like every aspect of his game was just dominant for months.
Yeah.
I mean, did the move online just really affect him that much?
Maybe
Possibly.
his teammates were creating situations for him that allowed him just to clean up kills, and they're not doing it anymore. I don't know, but he was still dropping those KDs when Asim was doing 0.8s.
Yeah, exactly. Not much
So-
has changed. It seems like everybody
Yeah.
else. That's the weird thing when it comes to, like, stats wise. But like, I don't know. I mean, like, looking forward to them though, like they are in a tough spot because they're sitting with they're matched up against what, New York. They have what, Huntsman, London, New York, and Rokkr in their group for the New York event.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this not loading for me? Sorry, it's not loading.
You're good.
But yeah, then they have to play FaZe map or round one of.
It's Ravens, Huntsman in New York. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's not loading for me for some reason.
Yeah.
Ravens Huntsman, New York, and then in oh my word, why is this not loading?
What you looking for?
Just their groups for their last event. And then they have what, FaZe Huntsman and Surge for
Gotcha.
last event.
Gotcha.
They had Surge, Empire, and FaZe.
What?
For Minnesota?
For Toronto.
Oh.
Oh, Toronto, they have
FaZe, Surge, and Huntsman.
FaZe, Mutineers,
Oh, FaZe Mutineers Empire.
Empire.
Oh,
That's what you mean.
good luck. Good luck.
You have
Yeah, why are these not loading for me, bro?
in your bracket. You have 3 teams that have won 2 events each.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And New York is just as tough. So it's like you basically have to make a massive run at New York. I mean, that means you have to beat New York or the Huntsmen or the Ravens. Well, you have to beat 2. You have to at least beat Subliners or Ravens, I guess. I mean, yeah, like either way, you have to beat them at least once.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, dude. The Rokkr are in big time trouble. They're in big time
New York
trouble.
has to be there. Like New York has to be where they show up. Like I think they got the best bracket they're gonna get. Like Huntsman weak, Ravens, in my opinion, are weak, and also Subliners. Like it's not impossible to beat them.
Yeah. So I mean, like looking at the standings though, Rokkr are in 5th right now with 120 points. So they do have a 40-point lead over the Ravens. They have a 50-point lead over OpTic. So I mean, like they have a 60-point lead over Paris, a 60-point lead over the Subliners. So realistically, the only teams that could potentially catch them are like Ravens, OpTic, and Subliners, which would knock you down to 8th place. But that's only if everything really doesn't go your way. So, I mean, when you look at it that way, you're like, okay, well, it's not the worst thing ever, but those placements are going to matter if you don't want to play FaZe, Huntsman, or Dallas in the first round or two of champs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man.
So it's like that's where the problem lies for sure. So
yeah.
I'm just not sure how they rebound, especially with the groups that they're facing up here in the future. They're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the Huntsman, man. The Huntsman. Well, guys, this didn't go your way, did it? I mean,
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of saw it coming, but
I don't want to say we told you so, but like they aren't a tier 1 team. I mean, we were talking about it before, and we're like, maybe they're the third best team in the league, but like they're not in the Empire or FaZe category yet. But even then, apparently they weren't in the Mutineers category because the Mutineers beat all of them.
I wouldn't even put Huntsman at top 3.
Yeah, I mean, how do you not put the Mutineers in the top 3 now?
Yeah,
right?
They
I don't know.
They
Inmate
beat all
still
three?
doesn't put them
Yeah.
there.
all
But
three teams.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's crazy. It's crazy. But what are your thoughts about the Huntsman, man? I mean, after that performance, like they struggled at times. S&D was definitely shaky,
Mm-hmm.
and they lost some close matches. So it's like,
Yeah,
they lost to the Guerillas.
the saving,
Guerillas showed up though for some reason. But
Yeah, well, we'll definitely talk about that in a second.
yeah. The saving grace is they lost 2 close game 5s.
Yeah.
So these weren't blowouts by any means.
No.
But man, S&D needs to get better for them.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I mean, people shout out to Scump and shout out to Octane for making recap videos on their
Yes.
YouTube channels, by
That's
the way.
awesome.
That's exciting.
Mhm.
Finally, pros are out here like recapping the events from their like perspectives, which is fantastic. Like we've been missing that from the COD scene for like feels like 2 or 3 years now.
Mhm.
Bros just have been like unwilling to talk about what's going on in the league publicly. So it's been nice to see. But yeah, I mean, Huntsman wise, I mean, obviously looking back on it now, the Mutineers loss didn't look nearly as bad as it did right when it happened.
Mhm.
Because you're like, oh my word, the Mutineers beat them again.
3
you know?
times in
Yeah.
a row.
Mutineers beat Empire, FaZe, and Huntsman all in this
I
tournament.
mean, it's a straight up
Like,
statement.
Mhm.
You can't even say Mutineers didn't deserve it. They literally beat like the quote unquote best 3 teams.
I know. It was the most impressive run a team could possibly make for for Florida. It was unreal. Like, but
Yeah.
like Huntsman wise, how do you see him improving in S&D? I mean, that's what they have to do moving forward. What they lost? Did they lose both S&Ds to the Guerillas and to the Hunts to the Mutineers? They lost. Yep, they lost all 4 S&Ds.
Mhm.
So, yikes.
I know.
we know they don't go over it very often, and like they've said that. And I guess I don't know about the other pro teams.
I am curious to hear you guys' thoughts because I thought when I saw them lost twice, I thought it's because RC is running the sniper. But then he tweets and he says it's not because I was running the sniper. I mean, he was not putting up stats in the S&D with the
See,
sniper.
That's what I don't understand. It's like that's on Arclov, right? We're talking about
Mhm.
because I think he basically only snipe. Did he only snipe on Arclov?
I thi-
Because
I-
Formal snipes on Piccadilly.
I think he was sniping on Gunrunner too.
Was he sniping on Gunrunner?
I think so. I could be wrong though. Don't flame
I
me,
think you.
but-
Now that you say that, I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've never understood that. Like if the sniper's not working after 2, 3,
Put it away.
4 rounds,
Put it away. It's not
at
doing
some
anything
point,
for you.
switch up the pace.
It's a liability. At
Switch
that
up the
point.
pace, start pushing the pace a little bit or something like that. I mean, like, it felt like, I know Scump said it, but like, this is so true. Like, on that gun runner, they weren't getting the bomb down on offense, but like, I mean, offense wins like 75% of the rounds on gun runner.
Mhm.
Once you plant that bomb, it's like a free win, like 80% of the time, it feels like.
Mhm.
It's so hard to retake. Yeah, I mean, going into it, I felt like the Huntsmen, I was excited to see they were playing Arclavs because I'm like, they've been good on Arclav. They're probably going to be in good shape here. And then they lose both of them. And they got smoked by the girls. They lost 6-1 to the girls in Arclov.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I guess do they just double down and just grind S&D strats and pray that they get better because they're obviously decent at respawn. They're good at respawn.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. Do you guys see
They're-
certain changes needed, or is it just more practice?
they're definitely going to go over S&Ds. They got
They have to. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Who knows if they even went over any S&Ds with Priestahh? Like,
Yeah, Scump
So
said they
I
went
think
over it a
they're gonna
little
go
bit with
over it.
Priestahh.
yeah, a little bit, but I don't know. They also won the last event, so they might be like, maybe we got this. But
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. If a team, that's how the meta with S&D, man, is so tough because it's like you have to consistently be learning new strats or else teams catch on. And like you have to be showing them different things and like changing up your pace because the pro teams are so good at picking up on those small details of like you threw a stun here, you threw a smoke in this spot, your sniper set up in this way, so you're gonna be doing this like that. Pro teams are just too good at that, and if you get predictable, it gets real easy real quick for other teams. And so, yeah, I think time is just really important. I'm just surprised more teams don't do more practice with it. But like respect to the Guerillas because the Guerillas like as a whole just shocking with how good they were this tournament, man.
Really good.
Insane. So I mean, like we can kind of transition from that, I guess, if you want to.
Into
I mean,
Guerillas.
I guess to wrap up with the Huntsmen, it's just like I feel like the practice is what they need.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident with them in respawn still, especially hard point. Domination's still a little iffy, at least in my opinion, for the Huntsmen game week in and week out. But like they lost. They lose the Dom to the Guerillas. No, they beat the Guerillas, but they lost to the Mutineers. But the Mutineers like the best. They're definitely a top 3 Dom team, so that's what you'd expect, I guess, at the end of the day. But let's move to the Guerillas.
Wow.
My goodness.
Wow.
Who would have thought, man? After
Impressive.
Saints, so obviously they bring in Saints. They drop Spart. We all kind of knew Spart was having issues. We all knew that. I mean,
Spart was terrible. Yeah,
he was struggling. Yeah. And you bring in Saints, who before wasn't. He had about a 1 KD when he got benched. We were like, it was just a weird situation overall. He comes in and they look good.
Really good. Like he must have been exactly what they needed. Just another slaying power on the map. Because man, they came out to play. They're already a good S&D team, honestly. And then they get someone to help them with their respawns, and it was almost a Florida LAG final. Like what?
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been insane.
It was so close.
Yeah.
You had debatably people debated the top 3 teams were at that event, and none of them would have gotten the finals.
The LA Guerillas trek here was they beat Toronto Ultra 3-2. Then they lost to the Mutineers 3-1. Then they beat the Huntsmen 3-2, and then lost to the FaZe 3-2. Like they were insanely competitive.
And they were an auto mantle away from 3-0 in FaZe.
They were the auto mantle away.
So that game could have been a 3-0. And
you're right.
If I would have saw a 3-0 LAG to FaZe.
And then they were a team kill away.
They were. I forgot about that too. They were a team kill away. Just certain blunders really. I mean, they pretty much costed themselves that FaZe series.
Yeah, I mean, they lost round 11 on Piccadilly against FaZe, and then they lost round 10 on Gunrunner. Insane.
Wild.
Well, they made a massive comeback in that first hard point. They were down by, I can't even remember, but they were down by a lot in that first hard point on Gunrunner FaZe. And they made the comeback and then beat them like 250-239. I was like, wow. Yeah. I literally wrote them off like after the first half of that game. I'm like, oh, here we go. Hot 3-0.
Easy 3-0.
Hot 3-0. Here it comes. FaZe is back. And then the comeback, and FaZe couldn't really get back into rhythm.
Just overall shocking, this is looking good for them mid-season. If this is their starting point going up into champs, they could be a contender. I mean,
I legitimately agree.
Yeah, so it's just
they looked really good. And like we've been talking about Vivid's like improvement and like the potential that Vivid has as a slayer and as a player, and like Blast has been amazing the past
really
like 6 weeks. And then like Decimate's been solid, and Aqua's like his beginning of the year form, he was amazing at the beginning of the year. Then he slowed down, and now it feels like they're getting back into pace here. And so Aqua's finding his groove. Blast is slaying. Decimate's playing well, and then you've got Vivid improving and playing great S&D, which is what I mean. At the end of the day, if they keep clutching up S&Ds like they are, they're going to be hard to beat. And then you bring in Saints to be a consistent player. around 1 KD, that team is kind of dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. They could show up at any time. I still don't know. That it might have been just one of those events that they
caught that
decided to
spark.
pop off. They just caught that spark. So next event they could be trash again. Like
yeah, I wouldn't bet the house on LAG by any means.
It was just crazy that no one. How could anyone even foresee this? That they would be almost in the finals with an event where FaZe, Empire, and Huntsman were in it. I mean, just crazy, honestly.
I mean, I feel like once they got on a roll against the Huntsmen, like they beat the Ultra, and they're like, oh wow, we won. And then when they got to the Huntsmen and they beat them, and then Huntsmen were, weak, and they beat like a team that's like renowned, like everyone loves the Huntsmen. That gives you a lot of energy. Yeah, and so that I feel like that carried them, especially going into that FaZe
I'd imagine
match.
they'll be pretty excited to get on the game this week and play and get better and like, oh, there's some potential here now.
Yeah,
I'd imagine that's pretty energizing for them because they've been down in the dumps this whole season.
Yeah,
like legitimately just tough overall. But I mean, speaking of teams that are down in the dumps this whole season, the Seattle Surge. Professional transitions. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, we kind of already mentioned, they were right there. They were right there against FaZe to make Octane's dreams come true.
Up 2-0.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a 45-minute delay. I mean, what are your thoughts on Surge, man? Proto.
I was impressed. I was happy.
Happily surprised?
Happily surprised. Like, I think he did what he needed to for this team.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what his ceiling is. If he has a very high ceiling, or he might just get incrementally. I can't even say the word. Incrementally better. However you say that word.
Something like that.
But like you said, Rex, they could just be doing whatever now and just kind of trying anything, and maybe that does free up the Surge to do things that teams wouldn't expect. I don't know, because they have nothing to lose at this point. They have legit nothing to lose. So I don't know. Obviously, FaZe did have a bad event, so they probably weren't playing FaZe at their 100% self. But nonetheless, they were up 2-0 and arguably would have won that series if they weren't iced for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I think they should take this with as like a good event for them, just to not be blown out completely. But still, it's frustrating, losing like that still, and hopefully we see some more improvements. But I don't know where to really put them right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're sitting at 50 CDL points. I mean, they're 30 back of top 6, so it's in reach if you suddenly can turn this thing around. But I mean, Rex, what are your thoughts on Proto as a player specifically?
I think Proto has a good mindset. I think he probably brings more positivity to the team. Yeah, and probably gives them, I guess, a flash of hope.
Right.
I have my hesitations about Pander, but
same.
I think with Pander on the team, I don't see this team doing much else. I honestly don't even think they're going to do well the next time they play. I don't think they're going to go very far. I think they kind of got lucky against a weakened FaZe. I mean, lucky for the first 2 maps, and they got iced, and obviously that was unlucky for them. And then they won against Rokkr, a weakened Rokkr, who's using a sub who I'm guessing
really
they've never
lucky
practiced.
With that Rokkr sub.
Yeah, and they've never played against that. And then, so I don't. And then they lost 3-0 to Empire.
Yeah, that's been a theme this year. They keep playing Empire, man.
So I think they kind of just got lucky for the first 2 maps against FaZe, and FaZe was weak. FaZe maybe was getting complacent. Yeah, he just caught him off guard, and Seattle's playing like they have nothing to lose. So once that happened, like, oh wow, maybe we can do something. Playing against a weak Rokkr basically has a guy who never practiced the team before, so of course they beat them. And then when they go to Empire, like a team who's like consistent, good, seems like they're performing kind of where they're supposed to be at.
For sure.
And then they get 3-0'd. And it's like, okay, this is normalized again.
Yeah, I like your idea.
I don't think Seattle's going to do much else. I think they got a good tournament this time, but I think they're one-off tournament.
Yeah, I agree. I think Proto does bring a good mentality though, because I mean, like, think about it. You're replacing Karma, who doesn't really have any real reason to play the game. I mean, if they're getting smoked, he has no motivation to get on. He doesn't like the game, and his career doesn't ride on him performing in this game. Where Proto, I mean, his career rides on how he plays with this team right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Really does.
Does he get a contract next year in the CDL or not? These next 2 events are going to decide that for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these next 3, counting champs, 3 events are going to decide that for him. So it's like him and Pander have a lot of reasons to play Call of Duty right now.
Pander sucks, man. Like, okay, I shouldn't say he doesn't suck. Like, he's not like bottom of the barrel, but
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's
just
not
like,
the
you
answer.
just look at his gameplay and you're like, he's not cracked. He's not, you know,
he's
Mac
not the
Melt's
answer for
cracked,
Seattle, for
Shotzzy
sure.
cracked, Simp cracked. Like, there's people who's got these, like, you can just tell when someone looks good and he just like doesn't have that spark. So I don't see like, I don't know. I think Pander's a detriment to him. I don't know. I don't have high hopes for Seattle Surge still.
When you got guys
tournament
that
this
you're-
time, but it was kind of a lucky tournament for them.
Yeah, when you got low upside guys like Slacked and Pander on your team, most teams can afford having one lower upside guy, but it's really tough to be successful and have 2.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, you can argue Proto's upside, you can argue, you know, and Apathy's upside.
Yeah.
That yeah, that's kind of where it is. It's just where's the slaying power going to come from this game?
I mean, everyone's just playing to just prove, like, just basically, everyone's playing for the camera almost on that team. I feel like,
They're playing
literally
to get
just
a
trying to
contract.
look. They're just playing to try and get a contract somewhere else to look good, so they can stay in the league next year, and they don't have to fight to try and get on these teams. So I think that's where that's at.
Yeah, they're in a tough spot.
So I think they just got lucky, but I think it's a very, like, they're playing selfishly. I think as a team, they're just trying to be the best individually, and they don't care so much about the team chemistry so much.
Yeah.
Nothing much to add there, honestly.
Agreed?
Yeah,
You're in
agreed.
agreement?
Yeah, there's just not a whole lot to look
I know,
forward to.
We talked so much about him last week, and then we moved
I
into this
know.
week, and we're like, Seattle. No, yeah, I agree. I mean, okay, how do you want to do this? Do you want to talk about the rest of the teams that were there, or do you want to kind of transition into the predictions and like use the predictions as our time to talk about?
Yeah, let's set predictions and kind of wrap it in
wrap
there.
it all together, which means it's time for our
Oh.
third drop today. Oh my lord! So let's get right into the predictions.
I like it.
Oh,
Wow.
That is always the hypest clip, dude.
Who's the best
That
in the
will be
game, man?
Who's the
cemented
best
in
in the
COD
game?
history as the hypest clip.
Who's the best in the game?
Yeah, I know,
Oh,
man. So
it's
we are
Scump.
deciding who is the best in the game. Who's going to be the best in the game this weekend?
Huh. Yeah, we are.
We are. This is an interesting tournament, man. There's a lot of good teams here. The groups are kind of like I would say like diverse groups with like how they're spread apart and set up here. So in Group A, we've got Paris versus Mutineers and Royal Ravens versus Empire. And in Group B, we've got Subliners versus OpTic Gaming and Atlanta FaZe versus Toronto Ultra. So we've got some really kind of intriguing matchups. They're going to set up for some really intriguing future matchups here in each group. And again, we're gonna try to wrap this up. So expand a little bit more on these first few matchups and talk about the teams and these past events. So let's start in Group A here with the Paris versus Mutineers match. Obviously, the Mutineers shocking the world, like we said, with the most impressive run here. Most impressive run here at Minnesota. But
yeah.
Okay, what are your guys' thoughts on this matchup? What are your guys' thoughts about both these teams? How do you see this playing out, Rex?
I think I got to go with Mutineers. They definitely proved themselves. I think Awakening was a great addition. And Awakening's not going to be one of those like one-off tournaments. I don't think he's going to be like another. I think a Mac Melts where it's like I think he's going to be consistent. You can just look at his gameplay and he looks like he's going to carry that throughout. Like he just has that spark for this game.
You would say he's consistent, like Mac Melts.
I would say
Awakening was very
I would say
Here
Awakening.
we go.
He
I think Awakening's going to be a consistent player.
Because
Because you can just tell looking at these players, and he's going to be one of them.
I'm just messing.
Oh,
I
man.
agree.
And so Mutineers
He looked good, man.
He looked really good.
look great.
It's hard to come out and debut like that in your first tournament as a player. And again, maybe that's the difference, like versus like a Shotzzy coming out and having to play on a main stage in front of 2,000-3,000 people versus Awakening playing his first pro match in his bedroom. Like that could be the difference in how you debut. Like that same with Mac Melts.
Yeah.
But I mean, even Mac Melts didn't have like a fiery debut.
Mm-hmm.
Like Pharaoh had a fiery debut this year.
Awakening had
a fiery debut. Basically, when they've had their roster changes, they've come out and won their first event, which is crazy for Florida. So it's like, what in the world?
Craziness.
So no roster change this tournament, so no win, right? I mean, that's guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan in history repeating itself.
Yeah, so Toronto's going to bring in Kleenex, and they're going to win the event.
Yes.
All right, you heard it here first.
Possibly,
yes.
I have Mutineers for my pick, so.
You have Mutineers. I will also add in Mutineers. You guys like the new little color scheme here?
I think I haven't seen Paris in forever.
Well, I mean.
It's been forever, has it not?
They only play 2 games.
They play 2 games every match. We saw them.
I know.
We saw them like 2.5 weeks ago.
Yeah. I just don't know what to think about Paris besides the fact that I will never trust them to win a series. But
Paris one of these days is gonna go far.
Probably.
I think one day they're gonna make it to a championship bracket.
They could.
They don't got very many days left. I mean,
I know,
Kismet
but every
has to
team
go
gets
off.
that one-off tournament.
Their
Every
last
team
4
does.
showings were a 3-1 versus FaZe, getting 3-0'd by OpTic, and then in Seattle they got 3-1'd by Huntsman, then they got 3-1 by OpTic.
I hate to say it, but they needed to replace Zed. But that's all I have to say about Paris.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be making a roster. I mean, again, if there was ever a team to like pick up. The problem is the whole travel situation right now with guys, and they're all playing in the United States, so you can't pick up like any of the Europeans right now. They're also screwed. So
unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, next year, depending on what their contract situation is, I would highly expect them to pick up some of these Singularity and Team War guys. But we'll see. We'll see. So I agree. Mutineers going through there. So let's move forward on the bracket there. We can talk more about the Mutineers here in the future, I'm sure. Royal Ravens Empire. Rex, take us away.
I'm going with my boys on Empire. Honestly, I feel like Royal Ravens have been...
They're interesting, man.
In my mind, are a little bit weaker right now.
Weaker?
So I feel like... Yeah, honestly. I'm not weaker, but I don't see them being much better than what they are now, to be honest. And I think Empire has that strength. I don't know where Empire's wall is. They were so close to make it to that grand finals.
So close, man.
So close. And they lost to the team who won it. So they were incredible. Like, it was just a ridiculous series. So I think it's going to be Empire.
Man.
Empire's out for blood. Like, I think they're going to take it.
I'm going with Ravens.
Really?
I think you're crazy.
I think Crimsix is in a bad headspace right now.
Really?
And I don't think he can turn it around in 4 days.
5 days.
So I'm going to use that as fuel as Ravens have been getting prepared. Ravens looked incredible last event they played, first of all.
Man, they made a finals.
Yeah. Second of all, I think Empire are going to be back to where they were, but I think a week is not enough time. Maybe Crim just had a horrible event and he'll play lights out this event.
Ravens have looked good, but you think they can beat Empire?
I think Ravens can beat Mutineers, who Mutineers beat Empire. I think there's a chain of events there. I mean, Zero, okay, you can't deny Zero looked incredible.
Well, I mean, like, the roster just felt like it made sense with Zero in the roster. I mean,
it definitely makes more sense, but I feel like there's a ceiling there. Like, I don't...
Well, I think it's an interesting matchup with...
Possible.
It's an interesting matchup with Dallas because I think both teams' strengths are in their search game. And, like, London's definitely... Their strength is definitely in their search and destroy game.
Let's look at Respawn. Gotta give it to Empire.
Respawns.
Yeah, like, it's gotta be Empire, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, I think I would
Ravens,
pick Empire
what subs
as well.
do they have to keep up with Shotzzy? Like,
yeah, I mean, Shotzzy probably is the X factor in that series, too. It's just, like, he could easily drop 40.
True.
I could see it happening for sure. I mean, basically, at any point at this point now, Shotzzy could drop 40.
Yeah.
I like how your pick is Shotzzy, not Empire.
You picked Shotzzy.
I picked Shotzzy. I picked Shotzzy. Yes. That's right.
That's funny.
I was like, what do you mean? Oh.
Shoot.
I said Shotzzy as I was typing it. But all right, that sets up our losers bracket match, which is a little bit different here because Sam's got the Paris Empire lineup here. So you take us away with that Paris Empire while I fill in this.
Paris Empire is going to be an easy 3-0, 3-1 for Empire.
Yeah.
Nothing more to say about that besides Paris. Unless you come out like the Guerillas did this event, I just don't see them doing anything else.
Yeah.
They're like
their lineup just does. I don't see where the upside is.
It's
there.
just weird. They were hot at the beginning of the year, and then
they unlocked some strats early. They figured out the game a little bit before the other teams did, and now
then Kismet just hasn't been performing.
He's getting smoked.
He's been getting smoked. I don't know if their chemistry is just there. I don't. Yeah. So yeah, Empire, pretty easy game.
Yeah. Okay, I agree. Rex?
For Paris versus Ravens, I'm going with Ravens, but honestly, I don't count Paris out in this series, but I'm going to stick with Ravens.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ravens, again, the X factor's there. It's just the search and destroy. I just trust them so much with how they've been playing it. I mean, the whole idea of having film on them is interesting now with like Paris trying maybe doing some research there and expecting to play them or something like that, but I'd imagine the Ravens handle their business there pretty easily. Now that sets up for an interesting matchup. I mean, Mutineers Empire here for me and Rex. Mutineers Ravens for Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, you're the odd man out. Take us away again.
Ravens are taking this one.
No, you're not. Oh my
really?
God. You're so. Oh God.
I keep,
dude. What did you see in the Ravens that made okay?
Do you really
They
not
look
think
strong?
They
look
look
strong. Don't get me
really
wrong.
good.
They look strong, but come on. Mutineers just beat FaZe, Huntsman, and Empire just now.
Do you remember that little short while ago where I said I'm
they
a
have
big
Awakening?
Fan. I'm a big fan of history repeating itself. Let's roll it back to where Mutineers won their event last time.
Yeah.
What was the very next event that they played in? What happened?
They got smoked.
They got smoked. It's gonna happen again, folks. History.
Who's getting dropped this time?
So do you think Awakening? Do you think Awakening's not going to show up?
I think he shows up. I'm creating a storyline here, and the storyline is that history repeats itself, and so Mutineers are not going to be the same.
Some stories
team.
are never meant to be told. That was a story that should have never been told.
Okay, again,
The Ravens are strong, dude. But
again, if we are about to do this how we think it is, we're all going to get the bracket wrong.
Well, true, because that's your best point.
Yes,
is that every bracket that we've predicted what should, in quotes, based off power rankings and all
Is
logic
wrong.
actually happen is wrong. I mean, there's no explaining why Guerillas are beating Huntsmen. There's no explaining.
Well, explaining is that they got these new pickups, like.
No, yeah, exactly. The new pickups,
That's
the new
how
rosters.
That's how you explain it.
And that
Take
eventually
that
those
into
rosters
account.
fall into place, and the Mutineers are actually a really good team now, which I actually believe.
Mutineers look like a consistently good team.
Right. I think that's what makes me and Rex's matchup right here. We've got Mutineers versus Empire in the second round here. A rematch from the semis. Really, really, really interesting. And I have no clue who to pick here. I mean, Rex, who are you picking, bro?
Honestly, this is such a difficult one for me.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, it really depends on Illy and Crimsix.
I agree.
And
whether or not Awakening is the real deal, which
I think Awakening's the real deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, is Frosty going to show up again?
No, yeah, Frosty and Havoc had good you can quote unquote
Havoc again.
Frosty and Havoc had quote unquote good tournaments.
They're the X factors.
Yeah.
Of that
Which
team.
I mean, yeah, that as is Illy and Crim is Havoc and Frosty right now.
Yeah. So I mean,
What's the play here, boys?
I think I'm going with Empire because I think Empire is a smart team, and I think they're definitely going to be going over the Mutineers VOD, and they're going to learn the Mutineers, and I think they're going to be able to beat it.
That's kind of the idea I have there. I trust the veterans of Empire to come out here and like figure them out after playing them with their new roster. and like you get caught off guard by how good this roster is now with Awakening and how they play these maps. You go back and they lost a round 11 on Ramasa, so either you're not gonna play Ramasa against them anymore, or you're gonna figure out how to play Ramasa against them. So in my opinion, I think even if it goes game 5, the Empire would take it here. So that's why, like, that's my confidence there.
It was so incredibly close on both those Ramasas. Like Empire, if Empire got defense in that round 11, I think Empire would have won.
Yeah.
But since they got it, I swear to God, Empire never wins a Ramasa attack. I don't know the real statistics behind it, but at least in that series,
I'd love to look that up.
They never win the attack on Ramasa. It seemed like in that series, and I was like, once I saw that round 11 happen, I was
offense is tough.
And
on
then
Ramasa.
I saw they got offense on Ramasa. I was like, it's over. Mutineers won.
Yeah.
I knew it that minute that it happened. So I feel like once they go against Mutineers, they know what's going on. I think they had little mistakes, and I think they're going to be able to fix them. So I think it's going to be Empire. It'll be a tight one, but I think Empire can do it.
I'm right there with you, boys. For my Empire is knocking out Mutineers.
Oh yeah, you have the matchup in the losers bracket,
dude. So
you can't say anything because you just said Empire's going to beat Mutineers.
No, you're right. But the fact that you have Ravens beating the Mutineers and then the Empire how strong do you think these Ravens are? Like,
here's the thing. Would you have called me crazy if I would have predicted that Florida would beat FaZe
and make the grand finals?
Huntsman.
I don't think I would have called you totally crazy.
You should have called me totally crazy. That was totally crazy.
You would have called him.
That would have been totally crazy.
I don't think I would have told you totally crazy.
Thought, okay, Sam knows something about Awakening that we don't know.
Exactly.
That's what you would have thought.
Yeah.
So, Sam, do you know something about
Zero
that we don't know?
I do. Not really.
No, you don't. Because Zero's been around. Ravens is they're a solid team. That's all they are. They're nothing more.
I think they
have no sparks
of greatness.
They have no sparks.
I mean,
they do have sparks. Weskin's a spark.
And I mean, when Dylan can be a spark.
Dylan can be a spark. He just needs to unlock that spark.
Shotzy's got a bigger spark.
Well, yeah.
Oh, no, I have a bigger spark.
Okay.
My spark's saltier than yours.
Okay. I understand.
All right.
Okay.
No. So London in the what event was that? Seattle's home series where they lost the finals to Huntsman. Yep. They beat the Guerillas 3-2, which the garbage Guerillas. They beat the Subliners 3-0, and then they beat OpTic 3-2, and then lost 3-1 to the Huntsman. So I mean that's a solid performance. Yeah. Solid performance.
They lost to the Huntsman.
They lost to the new roster Huntsman. Because we know how new rosters are. New rosters are insta wins nowadays.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying wins for the new roster team. Yeah.
Yes,
so Huntsman is riding that high of a new player and that novelty and all that.
So
I mean, Ravens look definitely better, but
yeah, they did a lot better.
But it's 3-2 against Subline. I don't know.
But are they good enough to beat the Empire? No.
You'll see.
But
they'll all see.
Maybe. There's not at this point with online COD, you cannot rule out anything. So, all right, me and Rex, we both have Mutineers Ravens. Yeah. Well, listen, this puts our wits to the test here, Rex. Mutineers Ravens. Thoughts?
This is also a hard one for me.
This is tough. But I mean, if you pick the Ravens here,
I swear, if anyone picks Ravens here, I'm slapping every single person.
No, I'm picking Mutineers for this one. I think I have to. I think the only thing I would have is with Awakening, but I'm so confident that Awakening's going to stay consistently strong.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's going to keep it. I think these young guns, that's what Raven lacks. Raven lacks that young spark that these other teams have.
I'd just be really surprised based off how good the Mutineers looked in that tournament. I'd be just so surprised if they come out here and they don't perform. I mean, they're in a tough group. When you got, the Royal Ravens and Empire there, I mean, those are real teams you got to play against there. But I'd be surprised if it's not close against Empire, and I'd be surprised if they don't beat the Ravens, unless the Ravens come out here. If the Ravens beat the Mutineers, the Ravens are winning the tournament.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
Wow.
You heard it here first.
So then I gotta have Ravens win the whole thing, huh?
Yeah.
Please don't.
Well, if the Ravens come out of the group as the winners, they're winning the tournament. I mean, if they beat the Empire, then they beat the Mutineers? Come on, bro. Of course they're winning the tournament.
Yeah.
Then they're going against FaZe.
It's over. Mark it down.
And Subliners. They did 3-2 against Subliners. Like, and if Subliners got Mac Melts, I don't know.
This is such a fun tournament.
I think the whole Modern Warfare depends on if you're getting that young, like, spark
It's
player.
not just the young. It's just the great Slayer. It's all about
like,
having the great Slayer.
And like you can tell, like Pander is not one of them.
The Ravens
I don't know if
have a
Seattle
great
has any
Slayer.
like spark player. Like Proto's not even like a spark player for me, but like
I said,
Awakening is, Mac Melt is, Shotzzy is.
Who's the consistent
FaZe Simp, I guess,
who's
or
gonna be-
Abezy. Like they kind of have half sparked.
Who's going to be the consistent Slayer for London in a series where they're going out to win and beat these teams?
It would have to be Skrapz.
It has to be either
I mean,
Skrapz
if I had to
or
pick,
Dylan.
it would be Skrapz. But
But it means
Dude, I
you
don't know
need them to
about
drop a
Dylan.
1.1 or higher, basically, to be this good.
Yeah.
I just don't know if
they're
that's
just
happening.
not. It's not going to match up to what like Shotzzy and Awakening and Mac Melt's got.
This is making some very clippable moments for you here
Very.
next week, next Monday. You're here to clip it.
I'm saving every single thing you guys are saying to me. And when Ravens hold
my
up that
God.
trophy,
All right, let's go down to Group B. Subliners, OpTic Gaming. That's another fun matchup. I really, really like this tournament with the matchups we're getting.
this is actually a really hard matchup.
This is tough. I mean, I believe in this New York team. I believe in them. I'm picking the Subliners. I think overall, like the if they can get even consistent at all in search and destroy, they are going to be so good. But that's the question, whether or not they can. I'm honestly not sure. I don't, me and accuracy have a on and off relationship, but I truly believe in the 4 other players on that team, and I like that roster a lot.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be a downfall. It depends if accuracy can show up. OpTic Gaming's got Slasher, who like,
Oh, I know the human turret.
and like, I mean, it kind of also rides a little bit on Chino, like what happens with him.
Yeah.
And I think
I forgot about Chino.
S&Ds, I think OpTic Gaming is gonna reign. If Subliners can take one S&D, I think Subliners take it. I think Subliners is just gonna be stronger in the respawns, but this is a tough one for me. But I think I'm gonna go with Subliner.
Yep. Sam?
Yeah, I hate to be the same thing, but all signs point to Subliners winning this one.
I mean, I could see it happening with
Yeah,
OpTic. They just seem like they have that right chemistry for it.
Oh,
but
100%. They're dangerous.
Subliners just seem to have the higher, like with Mac Melt's not roster, it just seems like they could just take over. But yeah,
they do seem more inconsistent though. Like I'm not confident in New York.
No,
I'm confident in their players, but I'm not confident in them as a squad though.
I'm not confident in
Necessarily.
accuracy, but yeah.
that's the thing.
I mean, basically the winning formula this year for any team has been have an AR who has like a 1.2 KD and then have a slang SMG who has a 1.1, and you're going to win a tournament. Like it's basically how it's gone this year.
Wild.
Yeah, but all right, we
Except
all
for
have the
maybe with
Subliners.
FaZe, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we got Celium. That works.
That works.
The FaZe Ultra matchup here. I mean, I'd imagine we're all going FaZe here, right? Gotta switch the bracket here. It's been a minute for you guys.
Yeah, I'm going with FaZe, but with Kleenex in there, who knows what Kleenex can do?
It's interesting. I mean, I'd imagine more likely if it's gonna happen, it'd be a losers bracket run for the Ultra here, where you lose to FaZe, then you go on to beat OpTic and then like the Subliners or something.
I could see Ultra if they play with Kleenex at this event, but since they didn't, it seems like there's been too many switcheroos, and this event would just
They're
not
pulling fast ones on themselves.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it seems too quick for Kleenex to like make a wave, but again,
that's what we've been saying about
that's what we've
all
been
these
saying.
a lot of these
True.
moves, really.
So who knows at this
But if
point?
they had a whole week to play with them last week, then maybe that's enough time to like
Could be.
implement it all. I don't know.
Could be.
I agree. I mean, yeah, I think we're all going FaZe there. So that sets up our losers bracket stuff, Ultra and OpTic Gaming. But let's start with the winner's side of things here. Subliners FaZe for all of us. Rex, fire away.
I think I'm gonna go with. I gotta go with FaZe for this one.
Do you think they bounce back?
Yeah, can we talk
I
about
think-
FaZe for a second?
Yeah,
Yes.
Because what in the world?
they did.
This
not
was the
look
most
good.
inconsistent looking team I've seen in a long time. And like from almost anyone. Where like one map they look incredible. And the next map they look terrible. And then one series they look terrible. Next one they look great. Like it was a weird weekend for FaZe.
I think they just get complacent. I think Priestahh and Abezy get complacent.
Yeah. They reverse swept Seattle, and then they reverse sweep Dallas?
Dallas, yep.
They reverse swept Dallas?
Mm-hmm.
They reverse swept Dallas. They were... No, they didn't. They were down 2-1. They won the S&D on Ramaza. I'm an idiot. I was looking at backwards.
They didn't they? I swear. I was gonna say. I swear that they.
They reverse swept Dallas. I'm an idiot. They lost 250-139. They got smoked on the Gunrunner, 250-139, and then they lost 6-3 on Ramaza S&D. Then they smoked him in the Dom Petro. Then it was a fairly contested hardpoint Petro, and then they beat him 6-2 on Piccadilly.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked really good in those 3 maps, but they looked so bad in the first 2 maps. And the same thing with Seattle. And then they come out and they struggle against the Guerillas, and they barely clutch it up. And then they lose 3-1, and they kind of just never looked that competitive overall against Mutineers, except for in the Dom. Or no, they got smoked in the Dom. It was it was the S&D on Arclaw.
S&D.
Mm.
Yeah,
FaZe only performs when their back's against the wall, or if they're playing against a team, if they play against Huntsman or Empire, or more known teams, is when they start performing. Otherwise, they have to be their backs against the wall before Priestahh and Abezy decide to show up.
They certainly have a clutch factor. They
do.
Can clutch up when it's crunch time. But there was an interesting tweet. Was it TJ who said, "Does FaZe had FaZe ever rotated for a hard point?"
Dude, they're not good at rotating.
Which is really interesting to think that they were or are considered a good hardpoint team. It's probably just because they just kill everything.
I saw the stat. This was before maybe the last tournament, so this might be a little bit old, but they had by far the highest hill break percentage. So they were by far the best team at breaking hills, but they also were by far the least at getting early time on hills. So they're just not good at rotating, and they rely on their gun skill and ability to play off each other.
Yeah, which is
break hills.
Crazy. So when that doesn't go their way, then they're just breaking down the hardpoint. Then
and they're losing 250-146 on Gunrunner, which is a map that rewards rotating a lot of ways.
Definitely.
And then you can contest a little bit more on Hackney because there's some more hills that you can kind of just flood and rely on your natural ability there. So it's it's tough. And against a good hardpoint team like Mutineers now,
who knows?
They got smoked on Dom. It wasn't even close. It was it was a 45 point loss on Petro Dom to Mutineers. You don't want to play the Mutineers on Petro Dom. I can't believe they did. First of all, but yeah, Priestahh was having a rough weekend.
Dude, his mind's not there. I think something's going on. His mind is not in that, man. I hope it was just this tournament. I hope he comes back, but not the same Priestahh that we used to know and love. Same with Abezy.
It's weird.
Abezy's fine.
I don't think Abezy's fine. I think Abezy could have been better.
Probably.
Abezy might be overrated in my opinion. I hate saying it.
Oh no.
Because I
Those
like Abezy.
are dangerous words.
Seriously,
ShadyNero.
I think Abezy, he's good. Don't get me wrong, he's good, but he's he's like an envoy. He might be a bit overrated.
Oh, these are dangerous words. You're asking for people to hate you.
You're asking for it.
Asking to get great.
I love Abezy. I love the old United team, but I think Abezy.
Come here, kids.
Abezy depends on his, on Simp a little bit.
Well, they definitely.
How do you
Simp
not depend on
Simp
Simp?
itself.
Simp is insane. He was 10-0 within the first. What did Octane say? The first 35 seconds.
Flashbacks. He's like, yeah, that was funny. I was like,
yeah.
On the hard point, Simp, I think it was the 4th map. I think against Mutineers maybe. And did they come? No.
The hard
but
point
one of the hard points, he was doing
Hackney?
really bad. He was 8 and 18 or something.
I think it was the hard point Hackney where Simp was struggling.
I was like,
right?
this is not. Yeah, it was on hard point Hackney. I was like, this is not the Simp we know. I'm like, is he finally becoming bad? But then near the end, he started catching back up and pretty much about evened out. I was
Simp is just an animal.
I'm like, he just decided to show up again. I don't know what happened, but.
There is some weird inconsistencies going on with how FaZe plays certain maps and certain situations, and it's just weird because they lost to Dallas on Gunrunner. Maybe they should stop playing Gunrunner hardpoint. They lost 250 to 139 on Gunrunner Hardpoint, and then they lost 250 to 146 on Gunrunner to Mutineers.
Yeah, I think FaZe, like, they don't have strategy, which is hard to say because they have Crowder, and like I've been praising Crowder for his coaching, but FaZe does not seem to have strategies. They just kind of depend on being just really, really good as just players.
And how they play together. Yeah.
And just how they play together. They don't really have, like I said, they don't rotate, and like that's how they lose against teams like the Empire, who they play smarter. And Mutineers, same thing. They're just playing smarter. Like no one thinks like these like Havoc is better than Celium or have like no one thinks that they're better than these players on that team. It's just FaZe just is dumb.
Yeah. I think I wonder if FaZe bans Ramaza, because I feel like I haven't seen him play Ramaza in a long time. But I would be, because those are the types of maps that like really require rotating and like
more
setting
brain
up
power
and creating map control. Gunrunner, I think Gunrunner's that way. I think Ramaza's that way. And like I think on Hackney and Petro Hardpoint, you can kind of rely on like your ability to play off each other and like, you know, and how you push out in that side of way. But yeah, that is interesting. That is really interesting. I'll have to go back and look at their map picks for hardpoints and how that plays out. But I'm a little bit worried about them as a whole.
But they might turn it around. Like maybe they realize, like, wow, we're stupid. Like we should actually learn like the whole like, I guess, outside of the game, like,
and they spend a little bit more time figuring out where they were messing up.
Yeah, because I think they were trying to do that, and I honestly feel like that's why Simp started playing bad, is because they're trying to like use like this information they're learning from Crowder, but then like it's just not working. So then eventually in the middle of the game, like, you know what, guys, screw it, let's just go back to doing what we do, and then everyone starts gaining a bunch more kills again. But by that point, it's too late. So like maybe they're almost like hopeless in that sense, or they just need more time to like learn to do the rotations and do all that, because they just don't really know how.
It really does feel like there's like a thing where it's like, you know, they play great, then they have some time off, then they play bad, then they're like, okay, now we need to grind, we need to get better, then they win again, then it's like this like rotation of like getting kicked in the butt. Like they just need motivation to practice and play.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to play smarter, but like they just aren't playing smarter well. So eventually they get these reverse sweeps because they're like backs against walls. It's like, you know what, guys? Who cares about the strategy anymore? Let's just go in and just try and win again. And so then that's when they start winning.
It could go either way.
Because Crowder's like, you guys can be so good if you just learn to do it right, you know? Yeah. And they would be probably the best team we've ever seen, but they just can't seem to be smart.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a little bit nervous for them in that matchup. I think it's what's happening with them. In that matchup with the Subliners, I'm a little nervous. I'm going to take FaZe, but that's a very unconfident pick in FaZe there.
It'll be like Game 5 probably.
It could easily be a Game 5 where like Subliners aren't as good at S&D, and so they end up winning it.
Oh man, easily. Put one veteran on FaZe. Give me Octane for Major Maniac.
No, see, Major Maniac's actually been solid though. He's been good.
He has been solid. I mean, they've all been solid. They've all been solid.
Yeah.
But put Octane there, some veteran who knows what's going on. Oh, I think it would. I think that
they
FaZe
would be unstoppable.
They'd be way better. Octane can do the rotations. Octane can anchor.
Yeah, but Octane,
we know he can.
That's just extreme because he's just that good. I mean, it would have to be a more realistic situation, like an assault.
He
or something.
Can be their brains. I mean, that's what Empire is doing with Crim and Clay. Like
Crim and Clay are the brains.
They're not the like playmakers. They just like, we're gonna just make the movements that are proper, and you guys just kill things, and we'll set you up. FaZe is just like everybody just goes kills things.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, OpTic Ultra. Down here in the loser bracket for me, for all of us. We all have it.
Yeah, OpTic for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in what the Ultra are going to do here. I'm interested, but
Kleenex, I don't know. Kleenex gives me some hope, to be honest.
I know. He does. He definitely gives me some hope too.
I would just bet on OpTic more than I would bet on Ultra at this point. At this exact point.
Yeah.
I bet on OpTic.
Agreed.
That's kind of the reason what I was thinking. Again though, Kleenex on Ultra could make waves. But I just don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna take OpTic as well. Rex. Oh,
I'm going with Ultra.
Nice.
You're picking against OpTic. There's the Rex we know and love.
There is a theme of like these new players coming in, and just from the little bit of gameplay I've seen from Kleenex, and I know it's like Warzone and like a little bit of
stream clips and tens.
Yeah, like. But he looks like he's got that spark that like it seems is necessary to be a top team. So And I feel like that's what's going to carry Ultra over the edge. And, we know Chino is really not that spark.
Yeah, the
I
question
don't know if
always
anybody
is
on OpTic is. So
the question just always is like, well, if he had that spark, why wasn't he in the lineup earlier? Are they just that dumb? I mean,
well, he's
maybe.
not a known name. Classic's a known name.
Yeah.
They're friends, that whole thing.
Maybe. It's very possible.
Their
But,
scrims must have been going really well because they decide to put Classic back out and put CleanX back in because it was going way better with CleanX.
Yeah.
So
No, that is interesting for sure. So yeah, I guess we'll take OpTic, you take Ultra. Okay, so that sets up for our losers bracket rounds here again, where I've got Subliners versus OpTic. Sam also has Subliners versus OpTic.
I do.
And Rex has Subliners versus Ultra. This is a rematches of the first round for me and Sam here. Subliners. I mean, do you expect Subliners to take that both?
Man,
Both
see,
of them?
that's the hard.
It's tough to do.
That's the hard question. Is I think Subliners is a better team than OpTic, but are they better enough to beat them twice?
It's tough.
That's the question. I'm gonna place my bets on it. I do think they can. I just feel like there's always a complaint on OpTic side Slasher about connection for some reason.
But the Guerillas just dominated. So maybe it's back. Maybe they've rebounded. Maybe the LA servers
back.
are insane now.
Yeah, maybe it's back. I still feel like the OpTic squad, their chemistry, Chino helped it, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that Subliners are on a more of an uphill than OpTic is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love either team's S&D in this. I like both teams in hard point. Dom's a toss-up. I could definitely see this going either way, so that's why it's hard for me to take the Subliners twice, but I agree with you. I think I'm going to bet on it and take the Subliners twice as well. But I don't feel good about that one either. This Group B could go a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I could easily see the Subliners beating FaZe, and then FaZe comes down here. OpTic could lose to the Ultra. So there's a lot of different ways this could potentially play out. Rex?
I think Subliners. I think I'm going to go with Subliners. I think Mac Melts is going to defeat CleanX, essentially.
Dang.
Just because Mac Melts has been there, or Mac Melts has been with his team longer. Attach and Zuma have started to show up. I don't have a whole lot more confidence in the rest of the Ultra squad, to be honest. But so I think that's about as far as Ultra's going to get.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, man, this sets up for an interesting semifinals here. We actually have. Do we have the same one? We do. Oh gosh, dang it. We do have the same one. Me and Rex have Empire Subliners and FaZe versus Mutineers. Sam's got Raven Subliners and FaZe Empire. So he's got a really, really fun matchup there.
No Mutineers.
That's wild. Okay. That's
no
wild.
Mutineers.
I mean, hey, crazier things have definitely happened in the CDL, that's for sure. So, Sam, take us away. Raven Subliners for you there. Who you got?
Well, in this world of mine, Ravens have beat Empire
and Mutineers. And now they're going to beat Subliners.
Logic would follow that they beat the Subliners.
But since you haven't been going off logic at all today, you're definitely picking the Subliners.
But since I have some weird things, no, I am going to take Ravens here.
Wow, back-to-back finals appearances for the Ravens.
I think if I have them going this far,
it only makes sense.
It only makes sense that they finish it out.
Yeah.
So that's my reasoning in this universe.
I respect it. Rex, Empire Subliners, here we go.
It depends if Illy and Crimsix show up. I think
if Empire beat the Mutineers, man. If Empires beat the Mutineers, they showed up.
Yeah, but Subliners, I mean, they got Attach and Zuma who are, really fast. Mac Melts is really fast. And Shotzzy can't handle 3 fast people like that.
I think we're underestimating Hook, though. Hook had some big time plays this weekend.
You're right. There is Hook. I think I'm going to go with Empire.
I
might be a little biased on that one. But Empire, you got to say Empire's going to get there, right? They're going to get another championship. They're right there.
Yeah.
Mutineers match was so close. Empire should have won it in my mind. They just few little things that happened. I think Empire should have won it.
Are we all going to end up with FaZe Empire in the finals here? Sam, who do you have here? FaZe versus Empire? Well, you have them in the losers.
Yeah. So here I'm taking Empire. And so this is going to set up for Empire Ravens. I think Empire is on a revenge of this past event, and I think they're going to take it over FaZe. They could, true. So it's going to be a close game regardless. But just like you've been saying, Rex, if Crim and Illy show up, and if FaZe have not figured it out yet, that's what I'm kind of going off of. However, both of them may not figure it out, and FaZe just may have the better individual skill and take it. But I'm going to say Empire's going to take it. Close game, though. Like a game 5. For sure.
I mean, oh, man. Yeah, we got FaZe Mutineers. Both me and Rex have FaZe Mutineers here. Rex, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to go with Mutineers on this one.
Man.
I think FaZe,
again,
like I said, I think they play almost just stupidly. And I don't think a week is going to be enough time. I think they're so stupid, like it's a really, really weak point for them. Honestly,
man,
how do you break more hills and you get starting? Like their break percentage is really high, but how many times did they get the starting hills?
Potential they have.
Exactly, the potential's there, but do you think they can do it that in a week? Like how lost were they? How many?
Yeah, baby. Yes, they can. I'm picking FaZe.
They went down 0-2. And then they do the reverse sweep because they all decide, all right, screw it, we're going to go back and do what we're good at. So maybe they go into this one thinking, we're just going to do what we're good at, and they start winning. But Mutineers seem like they're smart. They kind of got that slaying power. I think Mutineers' smartness is just going to beat FaZe.
It's like it did Mutineers' smartness is going to be FaZe's stupidness.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what's going to happen.
This is the deep analysis we get around here.
Yes.
Smartness and stupidness. And Rex is the biggest brain we know. So.
Big brain.
It's just massive brains. All right. I'm picking FaZe. I just think, talk about revenge tours. FaZe will be on a full-on revenge tour this tournament with and climaxing in a match versus FaZe here in the semifinals.
Yeah.
And speaking of revenge tours, I can't talk. That lines up a FaZe Empire match here in the final for me, Empire Mutineers for Rex, and Ravens Empire for Sam.
Yeah.
That's 3 different finals there for us, boys. Sam, who you got?
Oh, don't you do it, dude. Don't you do it.
Who you got, Sam?
Starts with an R.
Wow. He's going in.
They made it, folks. They beat the Empire. They win.
Raven emerged as a contender.
They win their first series.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. Rex, what do you think?
How many tournaments have Mutineers won?
Dos.
2, I think. Yeah.
2. How many tournaments have Empire won?
Dos.
I think 2.
How many tournaments have FaZe won?
Dos.
I think 2.
How many tournaments have Raven won?
0, I think.
6.
Yeah, so you think Ravens is going to come back and beat those teams who've won multiple times in these tournaments, and Ravens won 0? I think that's crazy talk. They have no young guns. They have no spark
That'd be
players.
Crazy talk.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Here's a scenario for you. What if Dylan becomes Black Ops 4 Dylan in this tournament?
All of a sudden, he just decides to do that?
Yes.
I mean, we saw the most we've seen from him.
We saw Speckle. We saw
the most we've seen from him since like the second week of the second tournament of the year in the last tournament. So, I mean, I get the upside argument there. It's just like
that's not happening.
Can we get even more of it? A lot more of it than we even saw last tournament, where they're going to be even better teams this tournament. It's tough. It's tough to argue.
It's tough. It's an uphill battle, 100%.
Ravens isn't winning.
But I'm there. I'm there to push them up the hill.
All right, whatever.
This is me pushing up the Ravens up the hill.
Oh my
There
word.
Game, set, match.
Game, set, match. I mean, it's not the craziest thing ever, but
it's the craziest thing ever.
I just don't see it
Ravens is not winning this. Like, Ravens to win the whole tournament against all these other teams that are there is just crazy.
Florida was crazy.
Call me
man.
crazy. Yeah.
Florida, was it that crazy though?
I think
It was pretty crazy.
I think
Florida's won before.
I think any sane person would never have picked Florida to win that tournament.
I mean,
No,
True.
but you could see Florida getting there.
With that same logic, you're picking London, therefore not sane. Because you say only an insane person would take Mutineers.
Correct. Yes.
I mean,
you're
either the biggest brain person I've ever met in my life.
Listen, I am fully aware. The stats are not in my favor.
Who is showing up for Ravens that you think this is going to happen?
Dylan and Zero.
You're insane. When has Dylan ever shown in this game that he has that spark to do that?
I mean, we've seen it in S&D for sure. If
anybody, I'd be like maybe Skrapz.
It's been on and off with Respawn though.
Maybe Wuskin, but Dylan.
But I mean, at the same time, the Empire won a LAN tournament where like none of them had over like a 1.6 or 1.06.
This is true.
Like there's a formula there for the Ravens to potentially make it happen. I mean, I'm not.
Are Ravens that smart?
Maybe.
We will see. I suppose.
All right, Rex, you got
Ravens
Empire
solid.
Mutineers. You got a rematch.
Right. So I know I'm going to get roasted. But guys, I'm putting my faith in Empire on this one. I had them beating Mutineers before in this in Group A. I think they can do it again. I think Empire will hopefully get their number. That Ramaza hurt my heart. I really think Empire could have taken it, especially if they got defense on that Ramaza S&D. They would have won it. I have no doubt in my mind they would have won it. So I'm going to go with Empire again. If Empire loses here, and then I'm done riding the Empire hype train or whatever, because I'm calling Illy and C6 a lost cause. But this is my last stand with them. With Illy and Crimsix, this is my last stand. I'm putting my faith in them again.
Well, what if they make
the finals? If they don't do it and Illy stays stupid and Crimsix can't pick it up, I'm done. They'll make. That's it. But this is the last time.
What do they have to do for you to be proud of them? Like, if they make the finals and they lose after beating the Mutineers the first time, are you still feeling pretty good about the Empire? I mean, you have to be.
I really need to see how Illy. I really am more curious about how Illy plays.
Yeah.
This tournament, because he just seemed like he was pulling okay numbers, but he just did some stupid stuff in my mind that just made no sense to me. So I just think he's a dumb player, but I hope that was just kind of they learn from it, and I hope Clay teaches them, Crimsix teaches them, I hope Crimsix picks up his own gameplay.
Yeah.
But this is my last straw with them. I'm putting them in the champion, but this is my last straw. If they can't pull it off and they break my heart again, then done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going back to the wishing well, going back to the well with the Empire FaZe finals matchups predictions. I think in this situation where I've got Empire, beating the Mutineers, I've got Empire really coming out playing well, beating the Ravens, and then they beat the Subliners. FaZe is, interesting, but I don't feel like they've played the competition. I'm gonna give Empire the edge here, and call for that rebound. FaZe scared me a little bit. I mean, I have them going to the finals here because they beat the Mutineers in like a revenge rematch type situation where they learn from their mistakes in the last match. But like in an Empire FaZe matchup, I think that's where you see like the cracks in the FaZe armor and the gameplay. And like Rex's fundamentals argument comes to play here too. So I'm gonna take FaZe. I'm gonna take Empire to beat FaZe.
Wow.
So there it is. There's our predictions right there, guys. I'll show them here on the screen here. There are the predictions, hot fire stuff. But we definitely want to talk about a little bit, at least, about like the MVP. So in this situation, with your guys' predictions, who's the MVP of this tournament? Sam?
For me, it has to be Dylan, because that's the only reason that Ravens would even get this far is if Dylan shows up.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Dylan.
Yeah. Rex?
I think my MVP.
Shotzzy.
I mean, it's going to be Shotzzy. In my heart, I think it's going to be Illy. I don't need Illy to pull big numbers, but if I just see him play just better,
therefore he'll
be my personal MVP and probably a team MVP. But in the overall scheme of things, obviously Shotzzy's going to show up and perform. Yeah. So Shotzzy.
I mean, if Empire is winning, it's because Shotzzy has like a nearly like a 1.1, 1.15 type numbers.
Absolutely.
Exactly. But I think it does come down to Illy.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've seen Shotzzy drop those numbers and they're not winning. So, yeah, I agree.
I think it comes down to Illy.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's talk about team most likely to bust. Who's the team you're most worried about with like this tournament and like the team that you're most scared of? I mean, for me, it's definitely, like I said, it would be FaZe for sure. I mean, I'm interested to see what happens, but I'm scared with how those matches went down for them at the end of the day.
For me, it'd be Mutineers in my bracket.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It is possible for them. Again, they busted right after they won that tournament back in their homestand. No, what did they win? Dallas. They won.
Yeah,
Dallas.
they won the first online event, Dallas.
So yeah, for me it'd be them, but I could also, I think FaZe and Empire are also set up to bust too. Like they both are shaky, so could be a lot of teams, honestly.
Anyone.
This
is a really tough tournament to predict overall.
Yeah. It's a weird one.
Really, really tough. Rex, who's your like team you're most worried about?
I think it's going to be Mutineers.
Yeah.
I mean, I have them going far, but that's because I think they won't. But I mean, I don't know. They could bust. I think Mutineers could bust. They'll either go far or they're going to bust.
Yeah.
What would cause the bust?
Awakening, not being who he is.
I think
Or
Frosty.
Who he isn't.
I think Frosty.
True. The X Factor, Frost and Havoc.
Frosty Havoc. I think it's going to be them.
Yeah, it could
Frosty
be.
had an amazing tournament. I mean, we didn't really see that side of Frost until this last tournament. He really was like, wow, he's really good. So I think he came into form, but I could see it where it's just, so I think Mutineers for my bust.
It'd be a terrible combo if you have Frosty and Havoc not showing up and then Awakening not showing up like he did in the first one. Then that would be terrible.
Oh, yeah, that's how you get
Oh my
That
God.
would be O2'd. Yeah.
If that happened, I would question life. I
yeah.
Which okay, let's talk about being a sleeper player then. Like a team, like a player that you feel like maybe like you could maybe call it an X factor or a player that you think is maybe being a little bit underrated heading into this tournament. Is there a guy that like sticks out to you?
Dylan.
In that, I mean, for you, it'd definitely be Dylan.
For me, it has to be Dylan.
Yeah. I don't blame you there. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. I mean, you've pretty much explained that one already. Exhausted that tank.
I didn't really talk about that one.
Yeah. Rex, who's yours?
I think it's going to be Kleenex.
Okay.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Kleenex. I don't think
Yep.
people are expecting maybe a lot from him, but he's new. So I think it's going to be Kleenex. I think Kleenex is going to be able to show up, and I think he's going to show us some cracked gameplay.
Nice.
We might be sleeping on Kenny and OpTic Gaming as a whole here. And
I was thinking of OpTic too.
We all have them. We all have them getting knocked out in the. Rex has them going 0-2 because he hasn't losing to Ultra. Sam and I have them losing to Subliners, so going 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a world where this team clicks. Slasher's dropping the 1.3, and Dashy's got the 1.15, and you've got and then Kenny's right around that 1. T's at his 0.93, and Chino's at his 0.88.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of doing their thing, and it ends up working. Like I think that's very possible. They beat the Subliners. They beat the Subliners in the loser semis, and make it out of the group. Then you're playing against Empire, and then who knows? Maybe something crazy happens.
Something crazy
But
might happen.
I think we're not giving them enough of a chance in that Subliners OpTic match, to say the least.
Yeah. Definitely.
But Subliners are a team that you'd realistically, Empire can win, FaZe can win, Mutineers can win, London can win, Subliners can win, and then like you're looking at like FaZe, Ultra, and Paris, like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at OpTic, Ultra, and Paris, like, oh, well, maybe. I mean, OpTic, maybe they could win too. I don't know.
Definitely.
We've already seen them make one run this year, so why not another, right? But is that it, boys?
It might be.
Is that
That
it?
was a gridiron right there.
It was, man. It was a marathon. 100%. This is our biggest podcast yet, to say the least. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. I mean, drop all your comments down below. There's a lot going on here. We got the new drops in this podcast.
Hey.
We're recording at our latest hour yet. So shout out Rex for making it happen. And we appreciate you guys supporting the pod. It really goes a long distance. Drop reviews on Apple Podcasts. We'll be reading them in the future, of course. We've been reading them in the past. And we do truly appreciate all the support. And join the fantasy draft if you haven't already. That's a reminder. Don't miss it. All right, guys. As always, I'm your boy, SalvationsElite. To my right is Sam, Bash _Bo3 on Twitter. And Rex, ShadyNero. Nero on the far right of the screen. And guys, we will see you next time. We out. Yeah.